Hi, Nicole.
Hi everyone. I'm so excited.
And thank you so much for joining. And I'm so glad that you're able to stop by and talk to us.
Yeah, likewise.
Could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Nicole and I do have a YouTube channel and decided to go on an influencer journey. On my YouTube channel, I do talk about my public accounting journey. I am documenting my new career change. Then on Instagram, I kind of give you guys some more like fashion and faith kind of content. So I did start off my career in public accounting, but now I work for nonprofit accounting.
So, I gathered some questions on Instagram for people that were curious and wanted to ask you certain questions. And I also came up with some questions on my own too. First question is from at the accounting student. How was your experience at the Big Four, and did you enjoy working there?
Wow. So yeah, I enjoyed my time at the Big Four. I had an amazing experience. I had just starting from my internship onboarding up until when I was a staff there, it was amazing. Happy hours were it, you know. So definitely a lot of networking, a lot of meeting new people. And I think the Big Four set me up for where I am today.
So there was a lot of positive things that came out of working there.
Yes.
The next question is from Yvonne. What are your tips for networking, possibly getting a referral at the Big Four?
Network with everyone. Don't be shy. Network with every single person. And the best network for you to start with is your family and friend group. Begin
Okay.
networking with them, and then from there keep expanding. And in terms of referral to at the Big Four is a little tricky when it comes to referrals. So I think referrals work more so when you're on a higher level, but when you are starting off like entry level, the best way is just to attend all of their events. And now, especially with a virtual world,
Right.
attend the event virtually, connect with people on LinkedIn. And as soon as you see that they're posting for the next year round of internships or entry level positions, be on top of that.
Right. So it's important to just go to their events. Usually all of those events are free, and when you're a student, you definitely have a lot more time. So that's
Yeah.
really good advice. So the next question is, are you glad that you started in Big Four audit, or would you have wanted to start off in nonprofit?
I'm glad that I started at Big Four Audit because audit has shaped, like I said, audit has shaped to where my career is today.
Hmm.
And when you have a general understanding of audit of a client, when you are in it, doing it internally, you have a better big picture. So for me now, I used to audit some nonprofit clients, and now I am doing nonprofit full time, where
Right.
I have a better sense of different control processes. I have
Hmm.
a better sense of how the accounting should be, and my audit is starting soon. And as I've been talking to the auditors, I already know every single thing that they're going to ask of me. So
Right.
I'm preparing my team already in that sense, where I know we're going to need X, Y, and Z. So we need to start getting it figured out now.
So at Big Four, you had those nonprofit clients, but now you are also a client for a different accounting firm?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So now I am a client. I know it's so weird because I'm still like my audit starting, like it's my baby.
Yeah.
But yeah, now it's like I've been the auditor, but now I am on the receiving end as a client.
Right.
But it just helps put things in perspective that if you were to start the other way around, auditing would be harder for you because
Right. You like the experience at Big Four that set you up to a better place now where you are currently.
yeah, I always say this, everyone should start in public accounting some way, shape, or
Hmm.
form as
Okay.
entry level staff before leaving and exploring other options because there's so much information given to you. This is the big picture. This is why this happened. This is why I was doing these work papers and tying these things out. It all
Yeah.
makes sense now versus there's some people that public accounting is just not for them, and that's perfectly fine. But I think as an accounting professional, when you
Hmm.
start in public accounting, you're a little bit more solid. And that's just my personal
Yes.
opinion.
Another question is, so a lot of students they have different options. Usually it's like tax or audit, and there's also advisory. So what were the reasons why you chose audit specifically?
Because I don't like tax.
Okay.
Okay. So funny story. I
Okay.
actually thought that when I was choosing what service line I wanted to do, I really wanted to do advisory. But I
Oh, okay.
thought so in accounting terms, you have tax and then you have assurance, which is audit essentially, and
Right.
then you have advisory. So I thought assurance was advisory.
Oh,
And
wow.
then when I started, I'm like, okay, what is this auditing stuff that they keep talking about? I thought I was going to be doing consulting. I thought I was going to be coming up with plans and presentations. And no, I was doing work papers. So,
Oh, no.
and then I did try to switch, but it's harder than people think. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, like don't be fooled when you are at an interview. If you want to do advisory, just ask for advisory off the bat.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Looking back, are you happy that it turned out the way it did, where you did
Yes.
start off? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so I
good.
am happy. I think with audit, as I progressed, like after my first internship, I was like, okay, like this is really cool. This is really fun. And
Yeah.
I was hands on into a lot of things that made me really enjoy audit versus tax. I didn't just want to work alone all the time
Okay,
and just
yeah.
go through like a daily routine. I wanted to have different clients. I
Mm,
wanted to have different
yeah.
interactions with teams. And audit did that for me. Audit isn't for the faint of heart because even as an intern, you're going to get thrown in there where you're
Mm,
going to have to go ask the client questions. And if you don't have that confidence to go to the client's office, and sometimes you're meeting with a CFO, sometimes you're meeting with an accounting manager, a controller that's been there
right.
for 30 plus years, and you are 20, 21, you know, going into like meeting big people and leading these meetings. And so you definitely need to think about that as well. Are you comfortable doing that? Because I've seen some people where they thought they were and then it hindered them
Mm.
in the process. So yeah.
I also know that you graduated recently with your MBA, so congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, did you have a concentration in your MBA, and what made you want to pursue your MBA?
Yeah, for me, my concentration was in accounting, and
Hmm.
I decided to pursue my MBA because I didn't think that a master's in accountancy was beneficial to me,
Okay.
especially because I was always on the fence as to do I want to get a CPA? How long do I want to do this?
Mhm.
Do I want to completely change? Like I was considering for a time like going into IT or even for human resources, which I kind of do now.
Right, right.
But essentially, what made me pursue my MBA was like a master's in accounting wouldn't really do it for me, beside the
Mhm.
CPA factor. But I already have my 150 credit hours, so I didn't really need it. And looking at return on investment, that's something
Mhm.
that I like having people think about. Are you going to throw $50,000 down the drain for a master's in
Mhm.
accountancy, or are you going to invest that $50,000 or maybe pursue a different career path that will open up more doors for you than a master's in accountancy?
Right. So I guess you're saying that you kind of wanted to have more of that broader knowledge so that your options would be more vast than if you were to just focus on accounting or
Yeah.
just tax, or you just wanted that option to be there.
Yeah, and, like, honestly speaking, like, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to downplay anybody that has a master's in
Yeah.
accountancy degree. 99.99% of everybody who has a master's in accountancy is just for the CPA so that they can reach their CPA hours. But
Right.
a master's in accountancy in the real world doesn't do much for you. And even in public accounting, like they want you to get your CPA. So your master's in accountancy isn't going to get necessarily, at least this is what I've seen,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily get you a salary increase, right? It's
Right.
more so your CPA and what you do know. I think it's any service line. It really doesn't. It only gets you so far, but in the
Mm,
real world, you have an MBA versus you have a master's in accountancy. Your MBA weighs out more because
mm,
you have a better understanding in terms of theory. you understand how the entire business works theoretically, from finance, economics, marketing, management, all of that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's really good to know for the future and for those that are listening that are interested in pursuing a master's. And then another question is from the accounting student. What led you to leave Big Four to become a CFO, and when did you know it was time to leave?
Oh, wow, this is a fun question. So I didn't leave to become a CFO. I
Okay.
just want to clarify that. And I think I even have to do that for my audience as well. I didn't leave to become a CFO. The CFO role just kind of fell in my lap at the right
Mm,
timing.
yeah.
And it was kind of one of those, like, it's a big career move and it's also a title move. That'll look good on my resume.
Right.
And so it kind of just happened. But I knew that, I think after my busy season last year, I knew that I had to leave public accounting if
Mm,
if I was going to continue creating content.
okay.
I knew that I would have to leave, and I was just unhappy. So like around like April, I already knew that this is probably not going to be for me. But I was still on the fence, especially with working from home. I was like, okay, maybe I can do it for one more busy season, but then that's it. So
Okay.
I always knew that I was going to leave. But then a couple of things had transpired in the summer months and leading to October. And then in October, I was just like, that's it. It was a mutual thing where I was
Mm,
no longer with the firm, which was beneficial for me. And I kind of started thinking about, like, what should I do? Like, what other areas? And then I was going to go back to do audit again for a different firm,
wow.
actually. And then this role just kind of popped up. And I was like,
Wow.
okay, cool. Like, less stress, less hours, no busy season. Sign me up.
That sounds amazing. And then the auditing opportunity that you mentioned before this role came to you, was it public accounting or was it
Yeah.
private? Okay,
Yeah,
so
it
this
was public accounting for another Big Four. I started in Big Four. I had left,
Mhm.
went into industry for a little bit, and then I went back into a
Mm,
mid-tier public firm.
okay,
So yeah, I wasn't at a Big Four recently. I was
right.
at a mid-tier.
That's good that you were able to go to private because, like you mentioned, like the hours are most likely a lot better.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, if I tell you, so they told me, oh yeah, your work week is a 37 and a half hour work week. I said, the 37 and a what? Are you sure? I said, did you do your math right? Because
Mhm.
a normal work week is 40 hours.
Right.
No, we operate on a 37 and a half hour work week, so that's 7.5 hour days. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, and they were like, yeah, most people leave here by 3:30.
Wow.
I said, sign me up.
Yes. Oh, wow. That sounds like a great workplace. So I'm so glad that you're able to work there and find a place that fits better with what you want.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Yes, for sure. The next question is, what is it like working for a nonprofit organization and how was that transition for you?
Yeah, so I think working in a nonprofit is different. So
Mhm.
especially with where I work, so there's a lot of different nonprofits, right? But specifically the line of work that my organization does is heavy work. It's
Mhm.
community based. It's dealing with victims who have gone through like who have
Wow.
gone through, as well as elderly. You would be surprised. So, learning all of that. So, it's very community focused. So, dealing with those who are in prison, those coming out of prison, and kind of reintegrating to society. So, that part was different for me in a sense, because most nonprofits that I've audited, they've been like museums or like orchestras or schools, things like that.
Right.
But this is like real deal. A
Mhm.
lot of people in the world and in our communities are facing this, right? So
Right.
that was a little different, but it's
Mhm.
amazing. Like when I get to see where all the money is going, like seeing the donations coming in, seeing all the different work that we're doing,
Mhm.
it's just amazing. So I think the transition, the only hard part of the transition is grants management. So I'm having to adjust to learning about like grants and contracts more. But other than that, it's all good. It's all really good.
And that's awesome how while working at the nonprofit, like you're making a difference. You're part of something with a greater purpose. It has a much bigger impact for the community that you're serving in. Another question, what are your roles as a CFO?
I do a lot. I do a lot. So a part of my role is managing my finance team. I'm on the executive leader team. So any kind of decisions for the organization, like on the forefront, I'm a part of, especially in terms of the finances.
Mhm.
I have to constantly look at how much do we have in revenue, what's coming in, what's gone out, going through expenses and seeing like identifying what are areas that we can cut back on and what are areas that we need more support on. So like I do a lot of reviewing of my staff's work
Okay.
and I review. So I have someone that prepares like financial statements
Mhm.
and then I have to review it to make sure that they're good and any changes to be made, we talk about it. And I meet with everybody in the organization. So we have a lot of departments within our organization. So we have like a
Mhm.
department for children education, for women, etc. I meet with each person that's in charge of that department because the contracts are awarded for them to run their department. So I meet with them and make sure, like, hey, this is what you guys got. This is how it's being spent. These are areas that we need to cut back on, or how are you guys feeling? Like, do you need more money in certain areas? Lots of connection building as well. So I meet with lawyers, the people that we bank with, our investor, like people that run our investments for us.
Right.
So meeting with them to just kind of talk about financials pretty much. And then also another thing that I have to do is prepare the financial statements and reports for the foundation. So we have a foundation and agency. So
Mhm.
prepare for the board members. So like the finance committee of our board of directors,
Right.
because they essentially are the one that are looking at this to see like, okay, where can we get more funding? Because they know the big name people.
Right.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about what I do. And I think as my role progresses, there's more things that are going to be added on, but those are the immediates for now.
Wow, it sounds like you have a lot on responsibilities that are
Yeah.
on your plate. And then you also mentioned before that you also have an HR role as well, on
Yeah.
top of what you just mentioned.
Yes. So we're trying to build out a solid HR team, and
Mhm.
which is awesome for me too, because I've always wanted to go into HR. So
Oh,
I get to not beyond payroll, I get to see and learn more about like the day to day, how to handle like if employees have issues with each other, like terminations,
right.
hiring. Like I get to be in the nitty gritty of that, like coming up with policies of how to be better with a lot of things. So it's pretty cool.
It sounds like there's a lot, but also sounds interesting too.
Yeah, it's definitely not boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question from at my CPA study journey asks, what's the most important thing you learned in your career?
To ask questions.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially, and I'm saying this like as a minority,
Mhm.
sometimes we're already in these companies, especially let's just go back to like public accounting, Big Four,
Right.
where you're already questioning, like, am I even supposed to be here?
Mhm.
And sometimes you're intimidated. But something that I had to learn is I just need to ask questions. I rather ask questions. And I think a part of with asking questions is keeping a documentation or paper trail of the questions that you ask
Right.
beyond asking questions on Teams or, yeah, I hope nobody uses Skype anymore.
No, I don't think they
Yeah.
do.
So like asking message on like whatever IM system your company has, like asking those beyond asking there, like formulating like a proper email and asking questions in that email. So in case somebody ever questions, you can
Mm,
pull it up. So
okay.
that is the
That
most important thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to learn is by just asking the people that might have like that knowledge. And I don't think anybody gets mad when you ask questions.
Yeah.
So that's a really good advice for those that are trying to learn more and to get more experience. Another question is, how do you maintain a good work-life integration?
So definitely now I have a better one.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I knew if I was gonna continue like content creating or growing, I was
Mhm.
gonna have to make a change somewhere.
Okay.
And unfortunately with public accounting it's doable because I did it, but
Right.
it wasn't manageable. And then it was like I felt like I was being spread too thin, where me
Mhm.
personally, I have to work an 11, 12-hour day, and then I still have to edit content, and I still have to find time to film, and I'm married, so I have to spend time with my husband and like do date nights and yada, yada, yada. So
Mhm.
it was hard. If we were doing something cool, I would just film it. And at first, my husband was uncomfortable, but as he saw the growth on my channel as well, he got more comfortable with it. So like I would film just like random stuff that I was doing throughout the day because that's the only way I was going to get content.
Right.
And then as well as kind of include my husband in the process too, or like my family. And now I value Fridays leaving at a certain time. So like
Mhm.
Fridays, I tell my team, unless there's something really pressing, but usually like on a Friday by 3 o'clock, I'm out.
Right.
3 o'clock, I leave. Monday through Friday, I do my best to get to work within a reasonable time. By five
Mhm.
o'clock, latest 5:30, I have to go home because I have to
Mhm.
cook dinner and I just need to decompress. I have to edit videos. I have to do other things, right? And I just need that time for myself. So having those hard cutoff times do help. And as well as my self-care, I've learned in the past year
Right.
to truly prioritize myself and self-care. So like I invested in I don't know if you've heard of BoxyCharm.
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So for me it's an investment. Like it's $25 a month, which adds
Mhm.
up after a while. But they give you like a bunch of different like
Okay.
products to test out. And I've been focusing a lot on my skincare.
Mhm.
So a part of my self-care is having like skincare days
Mhm.
and getting those products help with that. And I get my husband to do it with me. So,
Yeah, that's so good.
so
I
yeah.
feel like you've learned to kind of make adjustments to your life in terms of, switching to jobs and
Yeah.
also creating those boundaries.
Yeah. And I will say I say this now, but I've been working for 4 years now too,
Mhm.
which is a difference. So like, but when you're starting as an entry level person, it's hard because
Yes.
you have to work. Like when they tell you jump, you have to ask how high because you're entry level, you're trying to prove yourself. But I
Mhm.
think with that, a few things I wish I would have done. There was like an instance. So let me tell you this. The one time we're in busy season and my church did like I think it was like a Wednesday night like midweek services, right? And the
Mhm.
topic of that month was really good. However, it was busy season.
Yeah.
And I asked if I could leave
Okay.
to go. And like the first time it was like, uh, you know, and then so I felt bad asking again until then,
Mhm.
somebody else or like a partner had something to do on Wednesdays. So then they established Wednesdays, everybody leaves by
At
five
a
o'clock
certain
on
time.
Wednesday as like our midweek break, which was
Okay.
helpful. But then on a Saturday, I was working on a Saturday and I was like, well, I have to do this like at my church. Can I go? And then somebody was like, well, do you have to? Can't that wait? And I was like,
Mhm.
wait, but it's technically you're not supposed to come down on my religion, right?
No.
Yeah, like if it's a religious thing, like somebody has to like you have to be fine with that. So since then I've kind of been on the fence when I started like to ask like
Mm.
about what I can do, and that really hurt me when I would
Mhm.
see other people at 7 p.m. go to the gym, when I'd see other people at like 5 p.m. go to
Right.
the gym, do other stuff, and like people would take off because they'd be like, "Oh, I'm going on a date," and it'd be fine. But then I was like, "Well, I have church and it's an issue."
Mm.
So it was really hard, and I'm like, dang, but I have to be here to prove myself, so I can't complain. So it was very hard in the beginning of my career to have a good work-life balance or work-life integration. But now, as I've furthered up, it's a little easier.
Right.
Yeah. So like if it's something that you want to do and you
Mhm.
feel very passionate about it,
Right.
ask. It never hurts for you to ask. Like don't be afraid to ask. The worst thing that it can tell you is no, but at least you put it out there.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. And then I also want to talk about your faith. So on your channel, you're very open about your faith, and you also have an IGTV segment. It's called Word Wednesday, and you create devotionals. So, my question to you is, what inspires you to share the gospel on your platform? And also, another question is like, how do you deal with people that may not want to hear those messages?
I will say if I don't share the gospel, I would be
Mhm.
doing a disservice. And
Mm.
I say this because I don't believe in pushing stuff down people's throats. That's not me at all. I just share per my experiences
Right.
and per how I would, and per relatability. It's how it makes sense to me. And when I pray about these things, like even with my Word Wednesday series,
Mm.
it was a long time coming. And
Mm.
as I pray about these things, and like God is just working with me and telling me, like, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want you to do. And I do see the fruits of my labor. As I remember, I was going to stop Word Wednesday altogether. And then a
Mhm.
couple of people that know me, they were like, I really like that Bible study thing that you do on Wednesday. Can you please do more?
Mhm.
And then like somebody else will be like, are you going to do more videos? You haven't done one in a while. And I was just like, oh, okay. So like not everybody is going to be receptive to it, but that's why I offer more than just that, of
Right.
course. However, everything that I do, I put God in it. So whether it is
Mm.
like I'm sharing just like my YouTube content, something that I started doing last year in the beginning of my videos, I put a Bible verse
Right. I saw that.
in
Yeah.
the beginning of my videos.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm like, okay, somebody's here for accounting, but hey, I'll throw in a Bible verse there. And at that point, I feel like I've done my job, right? And
Mm.
if you want to talk more, I'm here. But
Right.
I'm not gonna like also be like down your throat as like you have to accept Christianity. Like I do
Mhm.
know. And for me, when I in college, I went through a really dark time
Mm.
in the beginning of college. And if it wasn't for me finding Jesus for myself,
Yeah.
I don't even think that I would be here talking to you.
Mm.
So, which is why I say, if I don't share the gospel, and as I'm growing more comfortable in my faith too, I share it. If you take it, you take it. If you don't, I have fashion content as well, like try
Yeah.
to do like modest fashion. And I think I'm still honoring God in that way.
Mhm.
And when I do my career content as well, like if I post something career related, somebody comes to my page, they scroll and they see other stuff. And who knows, maybe that's
Yeah.
somebody that has an opportunity to give their life to Jesus. So, and then I start meeting people and I have conversations, and then God just does his thing. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems like God is the center of your YouTube channel. And like you mentioned in one of your community posts that like he's the center and then the accounting and other videos are secondary to your channel.
Yeah, and that's just how it is, and I can't change it because if I
Yeah.
change it, I'm not going to be true to myself. And something
Mm.
I would say is like I'm not seeking fame or seeking like
Right.
to be Insta famous or YouTube famous. I want to impact people's lives. And I'm going to impact people's lives by sharing my story, like here talking to
Mhm.
you. The fact that I can share about my faith, right? That's
Mhm.
already a step in the right direction. And for me, I'll give you guys this quick testimony. My junior year of college, I had no money to go to school.
Mm.
This is a real story, and I might get emotional sharing, but I think it's worth sharing. My financial aid was finicky. I had no, like, my scholarships were finicky as well, just in terms of like funding and stuff for that year.
Mm.
And my parents couldn't take out any like student loans or anything for me. So I was kind of like at a crossroad on my own.
Right.
And after talking to my advisor and stuff, the only way that I was going to be able to maximize the aid and the scholarships that I did get was if I did an internship. And that's how I ended up doing the internships. But pretty much after my first semester, my junior year, I had no money for school. And I remember I called my parents. I was in my apartment in my room crying. I called my
Mm.
parents. I was like, I have no idea. I'm not going to graduate. And I felt like a disappointment. I was like, I disappointed
Mm.
you guys because I know that this is all you guys wanted for me to do is to finish college, but I'm not going to be able to. And so I remember like my parents prayed with me. My parents prayed with me, and my mom kept praying with me. She'll call me every day, and she was like halfway across the world praying with me.
Wow.
She's like, God is going to do something. God's going to do something. An opportunity came up for me to do my internship and still take online classes where my tuition for that semester was covered.
Wow.
Because it just worked out. And then in the summertime, I did my internship, which is the B4 that I started with. And I remember I was saving as much as I could save during my internships because I was like, okay, like this money is going to go towards tuition, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough. And then my husband and I, at the time, was my boyfriend, and the church that I was attending in Houston, where I went to do my internship and stuff. Like I was going to my husband's church, and then they had like a young adult night that they would do. And in the Bible study, the person who was leading it was like, oh, I'm just led that we pick partners and pray for each other.
Right.
The guy does not know me. I don't know this guy. He prayed for me, and then he told me, he was like, God wanted me to let you know that he's answering the prayer. Like the prayer that you've been asking for a while. And the only prayer that I knew was like, was school. But I'm like, he doesn't know me. I was okay. The next, I think it was like 2 days later, I get an email alert about like school that's like, oh, your financial aid has come in, and like literally my school balance went to zero. I went from owing $20,000 to having zero.
Wow, that's
yeah, like literally all I had to pay for in my senior year, my first semester, all I had to pay for was my living expenses and my books.
Right.
And it's things like that some people are like, oh, it's just luck, it's just coincidence. But there was a series of things that were happening that I'm like, it was just God putting the pieces together, which is why I have to talk about it so openly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's so good to hear. And it's like your testimony, and also shows like how powerful prayer is.
It really is. So if just try it, guys, like just try it. I know like it's not for everybody, but just try it. You will not regret it.
Well, thank you for sharing your testimony. Another question that I wanted to ask is, you're also the co-founder of AccountinginColor. Or how important is it that people embrace diversity and inclusion within the accounting industry, if not all industries?
Yeah, it's so important. And I think we can, as we look back to the series of events that has happened in the past several months, it is so important. Our voices matter. And in the accounting industry, what I found is, and this is one thing that sparked up even me sharing my journey of public accounting and stuff.
Right.
There's not that many, I'll just say like, especially Black people, there's not that many in accounting. People that I know, like going to college, or like even my little cousins, I'm like, oh, so you don't want to go into business? You don't want to do accounting? I'm like, no, accounting is boring. Like, oh no, I don't want to work in the cubicle for the rest of my life. Or like, I don't want to be bored. And like, and that's the concept that a lot of people have of accounting, that it's like super boring, super bland, cubicle life, lots and lots of work. But that's not how the reality is. And so, and another part of it with the representation is Black people, or like just minorities in general, are like in little clusters. Right. And it's hard sometimes to find, especially when you go into the smaller firms, it's so hard for you to find people that look like you. And the last firm that I was at, for the entire state, 2 offices in the entire state, right? There was one Asian. Right. And she was from China on the tax side, and me. Right. And it's just like, well, what's going on here, right? And then I think the other Black American lady, she was one of our admin staff. Wow. So literally 3 people across in the state. That says a lot. And I think that's why it's important to embrace diversity. And that's a part of AccountinginColor, to show that there's a lot of other accountants out there that look like you, that have the same views as you do, that you can link up with if you have questions. I know for me, when I was in Wisconsin, it was lonely because I'm like, these people won't understand me fully. They won't understand how I speak. They won't understand what I like to eat. They won't understand my culture, my background. And it just felt lonely sometimes. I think that's the importance of embracing diversity and inclusion, is to show that we matter and that we are also just as good as others, and as well as to hopefully inspire the younger generation to go into the accounting field as well. Yeah, that's awesome. And another question that I wanted to ask you is,
What are some of your passions outside of work?
A lot of things. Ooh. So I do have an Instagram page called Nicole at Home. You can follow me on there if you want recipes and like home decor. I love that kind of stuff. So I love
Mhm.
cooking, I love baking, stuff like that. I love shopping, of course.
Yes.
Sometimes that's not good, but
Retail therapy.
yeah. And I love to travel. I wish if I could get paid to travel, that's what I would do. And that's another reason where I thought like accounting was going to do that for me. And it did to a certain extent, where I traveled a lot for clients. So traveling is a big passion of mine. Mission work, I'm heavy on mission work. I'm
Mm,
hoping to plan a trip this year
wow. Okay.
to go do something with my parents that I started a while back. So yeah,
Wow.
those are a couple of the different things that I like to do.
And then also on the side, you do your YouTube channel as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah. And then I kind of just document bits and pieces of my life on YouTube for anyone who's interested.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I have the very last question, and the question is, could you give any last advice to those who want to start their career in accounting or audit?
Yeah. So don't be intimidated by when you, especially for those of you who are considering Big Four or just public in general, don't be intimidated by it.
Mm,
Don't be intimidated by the stories of like, oh no, like the hours, the busy season. Do it. It's
mm,
only going to make you a better person in your career. It's awesome. It's amazing. You might find that that is where you're meant to be. And then you might find like, oh no, I would like to explore other areas. But
right.
definitely just don't be intimidated. Start, ask questions. If you're in between, I get questions from people all the time like, oh, I'm in between firms. I don't know which one to pick. Reach out to somebody and talk through it. Don't be afraid to explore other options in accounting as well, because I will tell you, audit, tax, and advisory is not for everybody, but there's other things in accounting that you could do, like going to nonprofit. You can go into for profit doing insurance. You could do internal audit. You could just be a regular like staff accountant. You could be a finance analyst. There's so much to do just under the accounting umbrella. So don't limit yourself as well.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying. For those that are looking, for instance, to go in public accounting, they should experience that themselves and then make
Yeah.
that decision of whether they like it or whether they don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think if I didn't go through what I went through in
Mhm,
public accounting, I would not have known how awesome it is, and as well as the
mhm.
challenges, so that I can then be there to give these kind of advices to,
Right.
yeah.
That's so true. Thank you for answering all of those questions and thank you for coming on to talk about your journey and your experience. I also wanted to put your Instagram here. So at Nicole P, Accounting in Color, and then your YouTube channel as well, Nicole P, the accountant.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Once again, I enjoyed it. Sorry if I talk too much.
Oh no, it's
I'm just so
great.
passionate sometimes.
No, I'm so glad you were able to talk so openly and honestly. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and don't forget to check out Nicole P's Instagram and YouTube channel too. Thanks, guys, and thank you, Nicole.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.